Hi, I'm Lynn, and here's what's happening today at Ewetopia Farms. On weekends, we're gonna always do some just non-farm things that happen around here, our hikes. And today we're gonna do Cooking with Lynn segment because people have been asking for it. And I know a lot of people aren't interested in that, they're just interested in our sheep. So that's why I'm gonna, from now on, put those segments separately on weekends for those of you who want to watch that part of our life. And sheep are Monday through Fridays. Hi, you guys. Let's get started. So, backed by an unexplained popular demand, we're in the kitchen this afternoon cooking with Lynn again. The reason I haven't done too many of these cooking portions of the videos is that, one, I think most people are gonna click off right now, and two, I really am not a cook and I don't have too many original recipes. But today it just so happens that I was gonna do a recipe that I made up myself. It's a vegetarian meal, and it is potato, spinach, and cheese pie. So, if you're interested, keep on watching. Let's get started. Okay, I've lined up basically all the things I need here for now. And if I missed anything, I'll mention it as we go along. But first off, I've got to make the pastry. It's gonna be a single shell pastry. So today we're gonna make the potato pie. Next time I'll tell you what I do with the second half of the pie because it makes enough for a complete pie, the crust does. And so because I'm doing a shell for this one, I'm gonna do a shell for another recipe later. I'm not going to show you the making the pastry because everyone has their own pastry recipe. I just use the one on the Crisco box. So that's pretty simple. But the difference is that I add ingredients to the pastry. So to the pastry itself, once it's all mixed up and made, I'm going to add a little bit of curry powder, a little bit of Parmesan, a little bit of Italian seasoning, and that's about it. Instead of Parmesan, you could use grated cheddar cheese as well, but I don't have any of that today. So I roll that all together. I don't measure it. I just add a little bit for some extra flavor. It's something that I learned from a restaurant I used to go on the Sunshine Coast in BC. They used to make kind of savory pastries for some of their quiches and stuff. So I thought I'd try it with a potato pie, and it works out really well. So we're gonna do that, and we'll get going once I've made the crust and we're ready to do everything else. The fillings are gonna consist of carrots, which are gonna be diced up into bite-sized pieces and cooked ahead of time with a diced onion. I have a little red pepper left out of the garden. I'm going to throw that in too. I don't normally do that. And I've got some frozen spinach here already chopped that has been thawed that I'm going to squeeze out and add in as well. And then I've got some potatoes which we're going to chop into cubes and boil them, and then we'll put the whole thing together and I'll show you that. Okay, already I've made a change. I had 3 carrots out, but when I diced them up, I figured that I only needed the 2 carrots. So you can see I just put them in a microwave dish with a little plop of butter and some parsley, and I'm gonna just get the carrots, so that they're still firm, but they're not hard anymore. So while that's in the microwave, I'm boiling some herbal tea. I know a lot of people would be having a glass of wine, but unfortunately I'm allergic to a lot of wines. Something in them It can be white wine, red wine, it doesn't matter. So I just can't risk wine anymore. So tea it is, and the carrots are done. I've actually made another decision. I'm going to remove the pepper. I don't usually put pepper in, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot of ingredients: spinach, carrots, onions, and potatoes, and cheese. But that's the combination that I find works best. I've used other things like broccoli and peas and stuff in it, but this is my favorite version, so I'm going to stick with it and use my little garden pepper for the next recipe. So as most people probably know, frozen spinach has a lot of moisture in it, so I just squeeze it out by hand and get as much of the water out as possible. You could use fresh spinach and pre-cook it, but you're going to have the same thing. You want to make sure that you get as much moisture out as possible, and I find the little packages of frozen spinach are just the right amount for one pie. So once that's squeezed out, I put it into the pan with the carrots and the onions and just a dab of butter just to give it a bit of flavor, and I'll probably add just a little dash of salt and pepper as well. Pre-cooking the vegetables because basically once all the ingredients are assembled, you're just heating up the dish at the end, so you want everything cooked ahead of time. I find a dab of butter just gives it a little bit of extra flavor. That's all I use for salt because, to be honest, there's enough flavors, even though it sounds plain, in this dish that you don't need the added salt. So the only reason I added the spinach to this is so that it's all mixed up together, and when you add the potatoes, it's already kind of mixed up. You want to make sure you get a little bit of everything in each bite when you eat your pie. And basically that's it for the veggies. You just, the carrots were cooked not so that they're really soft, but so that you can put your fingernail in it. They're ready. So you're just cooking it till the onions go translucent. And that's totally it. You can also add garlic to it as well. But again, I'm out of garlic. So that will get put aside, and we're gonna start peeling potatoes and getting them boiling, and we're gonna mash them up into mashed potatoes, and we'll roll out the pie crust. So that's what my dry ingredients look like when I'm about to make the pie crust. It's 2 cups flour and just random amounts of Italian seasoning, curry powder, salt, parsley, and Parmesan cheese. And then I just mix the dry ingredients all up. And then I add the Crisco and the egg, and there'll be a bit of water as well. So the potatoes were done. I mashed them up, put in a dollop of butter. You can mash them really fine so that they're smooth, or you can leave a few lumps in there if you like potatoes and would like to have that extra potato crunch. Mine are fully mashed. And to that, I'm going to add some diced extra old cheddar cheese. And I'm guessing I buy these long blocks and they're 400 grams. I chopped up, I would say, half a block, so 200 grams. I don't measure things, like I said, so if it doesn't look like enough, I'll add more, because some people love sugar, but to me, there would be no life without cheese. So that's how much cheese is going in. It doesn't look like I used half here because I had a leftover block, but we'll be using this again soon too. So we're gonna put this in with the potatoes right now. So I've got the cheddar cheese chunks in here. To that, I'm gonna put the vegetables now. And we're just gonna give that a stir and blend it all nicely together. So like I said, when you eat it, get a little bit of everything in each bite. So that's what your potato, spinach, carrot, cheese, onion filling is gonna look like. So I'm totally not sure if everybody else does this, but this is how I roll out my pastry. I put some wax paper down, I sprinkle it with a bit of flour, and then I roll it with some plastic wrap on top, and I find it transfers way easier into the pie plate, and it stays together, and I don't get all dirty and mucky, because I'm the world's worst pie crust maker, and this has been my savior. And then when I kind of firm it up around the edges, when it starts to crack or go uneven, it doesn't all stick to me because I've got saran wrap over top. I don't know where I learned that trick, but like I say, once I do it this way, it seems to never fail. Probably it'll fail today. So this is kind of like a savory pie crust, I guess you'd say. And I like it pretty thin. But if you're like me and really are not good with pastry, you can always buy a pie crust already made. They have them. But at that point it wouldn't have the spices and the cheese. There's Parmesan cheese in it as well. And I really do like that in it. Okay, yep, should fit. Here we go. So you just peel the saran wrap off. I probably have too much flour here, so I'll just move that. I don't know if you can see it, but now we can just take the whole thing, well, just go like this, I guess, and flip it over. And you can push it down in there while it's got the wax paper on it. There we go, it worked. And normally you're supposed to when you make the crust, it says to let it kind of go cold in the fridge for a little while. I was running out of time today, and Arnie was calling, asking when dinner was going to be ready. So I thought, oh, it'll probably work just fresh, and it did. So there you go. So one thing with this pie crust, it has to go in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes at 425. It's not my special recipe. It's the Crisco recipe right on the box. However, I do add those extra ingredients to make it a little different from everyone else's. So we just trim off the edges, and then you have to kind of like make little pokes in the bottom so that the crust doesn't rise up in the air. There we go. That should be good enough. The oven's ready. There we go. Looks not too bad. And in she goes for, I'm going to put it in at 12 minutes and we'll see. And there we go. So the other half of the pastry gets wrapped in saran wrap and put in the fridge. Can stay there for a little while until I make my next pie. Or if you aren't going to be making another pie for a while, it freezes well too. So the pastry crust is done. It's nicely golden. Normally I'd let it cool a little bit, but Arnie's back from the barn, so to speed things up, I'm going to put the topping in right away. I think it'll be okay. So we've got all the potato mixture in the pie crust, and I just kind of level it a bit with a fork. If you didn't want it this big, like it's sticking over the pie quite a bit, you could just use less potatoes. But this is going to be a meal for me and Arnie. And we just eat it plain, but most people would probably serve it with a salad. But we just eat it plain, and we cut it in 4 slices, and usually it lasts us 2 days. It's quite filling and quite tasty. But it's not finished yet. I told you I like cheese. So the next thing we do is we sprinkle mozzarella over the whole thing. And then, so your husband thinks that you think he's really special, you put a little garnish on top. I should have said husband or significant other. That is cheddar cheese sprinkled with paprika. And now, because the pie crust is fresh out of the oven and the potato mixture is still a little bit warm, we're going to stick it in the oven for probably 20 to 25 minutes. If you had made it ahead of time and it was in the fridge, you're going to have to put it in longer to heat through the potatoes, and I would probably cover it with tin foil until the last maybe 15 minutes to melt the cheese. But this was made fresh, so it's going straight in the oven as is. And because I don't like cleaning up messes, I do lay some tin foil over there in case some of the cheese melts off and drips at the bottom of the oven. And it's in there at 350 degrees. So good thing I put the tin foil down because the cheese did drip all over the place. And my little flour kind of blended in so it doesn't look special and Arnie doesn't know what I did. Okay, hopefully it warmed all the way through. That's the finished product. Arnie's going to be the one cutting into it because I'll inevitably shatter it. Not the pie, it stays intact, but the crust. And then someone mentioned I have such lovely plates in one of the videos. And I don't know if I explained these plates before or not, but these plates were given to me by my mom. And we used to eat off of these when I was like 8 years old in Montreal.
Whoa.
That's how old they are.
They're worth a lot of money.
And these plates, though, came from a gas station. So I don't know if any of you ever remember Texaco gas stations, but in Montreal, we had a Texaco gas station near us in the 1960s. And in those days, when consumers bought things, you got a little gift oftentimes. And at Texaco, whenever you got a fill up or paid $20 or whatever for a gas, I don't know what it was, I'm guessing it was a fill up, you could pick an item like a plate or a bowl. It was a whole set of dishware. Is that what you call bunches of plates?
Dishware, yeah, I guess.
I don't know. Anyway, my mom got the whole set for free. She got the gas. But nowadays, when they give you a coupon, like I just was at No Frills, and they're like, do you want to have these stamps for some cooked pots and pans? They're really good quality ones. And I said, sure. I hadn't heard of that for a long time. But then when you got your card filled, you got 75% off the pots and pans. But the pots and pans were more expensive than I would pay for any pot and pan. So even with the coupons, I was paying more for the pots and pans that I didn't really need anyway. It was ridiculous, so I threw my card away. But in the past, you got gifts. This was a gift for doing business with Texaco. And Red Rose Tea used to put those little collector's item, little ornaments in them, which I loved. Not so anymore. But that's the history of the Texaco plates that seem to last forever.
Made in Stratford, England.
Stratford?
England.
There you go.
Guaranteed dishwasher safe. We don't have a dishwasher.
Yeah. What do you think I am?
Expensive one.
Really, Arnie?
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot cheaper than most dishwashers.
Well, I like the dishwasher I had before. It didn't have an attitude. Okay,
Why don't you give your head a scratch, Arnie? You kind of doing that ape thing again?
No, I'm just doing this.
What do you
think it's doing?
You're trying to feed your.
It's a brain. It's a what's it? What do they call it?
A brain sucker.
A brain sucker, and it's starving. Okay, hon, let's get to it.
Okay, go for it. Mutilate it.
Just have to bless it.
Okay.
Right in the center.
And because it's really thick, you want to check that it is heated all the way through. And this is vegetarian, Arnie. Do you feel like you miss meat when you have this meal?
No, I was never a meat eater my whole life. I mean, I eat meat, but
He doesn't mean he wasn't a meat eater. He means he wasn't a big meat eater.
I didn't have to have it.
Because we're not vegetarians, but this is a vegetarian recipe. And yeah, I find you totally don't need meat with this. It's filling, it's tasty.
6 or 4?
We usually do 4 because it's a whole meal.
Probably should
If
show
you
that on YouTube,
if you had it with meat or something, then you would cut smaller pieces. Okay, turn the plate around, pot around so we can see what it looks like on the inside. And like I said, this one was probably a little thicker than I normally make it.
Spot on, hon.
You could have, I used 6 potatoes. You could have easily used 4.
Spot on.
There we go. That's what it looks like. Is it warm in the middle? Is it?
I thought we were having
Why don't you take a taste before we go sit in front of the TV? We eat in front of the TV.
People do when they drink wine. Oh! Oh, Lynn. That's a die for, then. That is a die for. You're definitely a keeper, then. I don't know what I'm gonna do when you go to the Royal. Honestly, that
Hot
one
dogs.
night, starvation.
So is it good?
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, guys. Real simple. And it is quite tasty. Give her a try.